So in this video, I'm going to walk through adding a navigation bar to your WebDev9 project. We are going to start by making a fourth HTML page on your WebDev9 project, and we're going to name that document navbar.html. All right, so go ahead and open up that WebDev9 site. We're going to add a file, and we're going to name it mynavbar.html. Okay. Once we've done that, you can go to the Bootstrap documentation and copy the starter template, or copy the doc type, head, and optional JavaScript tags from index.html. And I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go back to your index.html, and I'm going to copy everything at the beginning all the way up to the opening body tag. Copy that guy, paste it into my navbar.html, go back to index.html, and I'm going to copy the stuff from the bottom, the optional JavaScript tags, the closing body, and the closing HTML tag. And I'm going to paste those into the bottom of my document. Okay? So now I have this frame of my navbar.html, and if I wanted to test it, I could try to run it. But at this point, right now, there's no way to test my navbar.html. So we need to add an anchor tag to the index.html. All right, so we're going to do that next. We're going to add an anchor tag to index.html. Go back to index.html, scroll to the top. We're going to add this anchor tag, href equals mynavbar.html, nav, which is what it's going to say, and a closing anchor tag. I want to put it right after the home, more bare info, and page 3 links, so that I'll now have a fourth one, nav, that you can click on. So you should be able to run it, click on nav, and you should get a blank green screen because on my navbar.html, we don't have anything inside the body. Okay. So that brings us to, we've just tested it. It worked. We're now on step 6. Okay. On step 6, it says, add a navigation element and give it the class of navbar. Remember that Bootstrap works based off of classes. So if you don't give elements proper classes, they will not apply the Bootstrap style. Right now, you won't see anything on the page. That's because there's nothing in nav. So we'll come over here. We're going to add that nav tag, nav, and we're going to give it a class from Bootstrap of navbar. We're also going to make sure that we close that navbar tab or tag, and we have that full element. Okay. Inside that navbar, we're going to add an anchor tag to the homepage of our website. Then we can add the class navbar brand to that anchor tag. So we'll do this piece first. Inside here, we're going to go href equals, we want this to link to index.html, and we are going to give it a class of navbar-brand, which is a Bootstrap class, and we're going to close that anchor tag and give it some text to link to that one. Call it home. If I click on nav, I now have this home button. Great. Okay. Navbar brand. This navbar brand class creates a clickable brand or link back to the homepage that will always remain in that upper left-hand corner. Okay, so it's always going to be up here in this upper left-hand corner. Next, we can change the color of our navigation bar by giving the navigation element the class of navbar light and background light, or navbar dark and background dark. those are the two basic examples. We'll do those first, and I'll show you the difference. So I'm going to go to the Navbar. I can add a second class, Navbar hyphen light and BG hyphen light. Run it, nav, and now you can see I have that light background. I can then change this to dark and dark and run it again. Click on the navigation bar, and now I have this dark background navigation bar. I can still click on the home link. It's just giving me a nav bar with the dark Bootstrap style. Okay. There are other color schemes. If you want to check those out, you can check out that documentation link here. You can get blue or any custom color by using these different colors or the primary built-in colors that are in Bootstrap. Okay, so there are some that say like danger or alert, things like that. So you can use any of those built-in colors. Okay. All right. The next thing we want to do on our navbar is I want to get some actual links to the other pages of my website. So to do that, we are going to add an unordered list of anchor tags. Okay. And so underneath this anchor tag, I'm going to create a UL or an unordered list. And inside that, I'm going to create 3 anchor tags. A href equals, the first link would be to bears.html. Just to follow this to this link. And I'll probably just call it bears. Close that anchor tag. Oh, what goes inside an unordered list? A list item. Okay, so this list item is an anchor tag. I want 3 list items because I have, well, a total of 4 pages now. The index.html, which is going to be the brand, it's always going to be stationed there. And then the other 3, I'll paste them here. Let's see, that's 1 too many. The third page right now is just called page3.html, and we don't have a real name for it. We'll just call it page 3. The fourth page is this nav page, my navbar.html, and we're going to call it navbar or something like that. Okay, so I've added an unordered list with 3 list items, 1, 2, 3, and each one of those list items is an anchor tag to my other 3 pages. Okay. Looks good. And let's go ahead and test it. I'm going to run it again. When I click on nav, I now have this unordered list of those 3 items. Okay, those 3 links. I haven't finished styling them, but the reason that we set them up in this unordered list is that's going to help us make our collapsible navigation menu. Okay. So to apply the Bootstrap style, we need to do a couple things. And the first thing is we're going to add the class of navbar-nav to the unordered list. So we're going to add the class of navbar-nav to the unordered list. Unordered list is here. Class equals navbar-nav dash nav, close quote. Good. I'm now going to add the class of nav dash item to each of the list items. So I'm going to class equals navbar dash, nav dash item. Nav dash item to each of those three list items, and nav dash link to each of the anchor tags. So anchor tag here, class equals nav dash link. That, paste it in both of the links. Okay. To move the links to the left, we could use MR auto, which stands for margin right auto, to the UL. But for now, let's just run it and see what it looks like. Go over to nav, and my three links look a little bit better. Got rid of the little dots, and they're not blue anymore, but they're still not lined up horizontally like I'd like them. I'm going to keep going, following these steps in the document. I'm going to add a div to wrap around the unordered list. Okay. Find my unordered list. Starts there, ends there. I want a div that's going to go around it, wrap around it. So div, and then closing div. Give myself some space. And then move that unordered list inside of it, keeping my tabbing nice and consistent. This div needs to have collapse, the class collapse, and navbar collapse. Okay. Adding these two classes, collapse and navbar collapse, is going to help define the two different styles for large screens and for small screens. Okay. One as a collapsible menu and one as links across the top of the page. So collapse and navbar collapse. Find the div that you just wrote, collapse, and navbar hyphen collapse. Right? Beautiful. We're now done with step 11. Next, we're going to go back to the nav and add the element or add the class navbar hyphen expand LG or MD or SM to show the expanded menu. So let's run it one more time, see what it looks like. Click on nav. Now you'll notice our links are not appearing, okay? And right now our website does not know when to show those links as either a list of links across the top or the collapsible menu. Okay, so step 12 says go to nav and we're going to add these navbar expand LG. So I'm going to go ahead and add that class to the nav. Class equals navbar, navbar dark, navbar light. I'm just going to paste it in here somewhere and run it again. Click on the nav. Looks good. The LG, the MD, and the SM at the end of that link will determine when the expanded menu will be displayed and when the toggle menu or the drop-down menu will be displayed. I would choose either LG or MD, meaning that your links will be spread across the top on large and medium screens, and then on small screens they would always be in the collapsible menu. Okay, so let's go with, we went with the LG for large screens. Large screens will show my links across the page. Small screens will show my links all stacked in a drop-down menu. Okay. After the brand, the first link to my home page, but before the div, we need to add a button. And that button is going to allow the small screen users to open the menu. Okay, so let's add a button tag, and we're going to give that button the class of Navbar toggler. So after my brand or my link to the home page, I'm going to create a button right here. So I'm going to use the button tag, and I'm going to give it the class of, that's the wrong class, Navbar toggler, Navbar hyphen toggler. Close that button. Inside that button, we're going to add a span with the class of navbar-toggler-icon. That will create the 3 horizontal line or hamburger icon. This is okay. So we're going to go ahead and create a span with a class of navbar-toggler-icon. Close the span. This is the link for the button. Or I'm sorry, that span will show the button. So if I click on nav, now I get this hamburger button style thing, and it should look pretty good. If I run it on a large screen, click run again, click on the nav, I see my 3 links there. When I resize the screen to small, I get my button for my drop-down menu, make it big, I get the 3 links. And now we're really getting somewhere. Okay, looks good. The only problem is right now my button doesn't actually do anything when I click on it. So to fix that, to make the button do something, we first have to add an attribute of data toggle equals collapse, and data target equals an ID of navbar menu to the button. So I'm going to add these 2 attributes to the button. Find the button, data hyphen target equals, sorry, data toggle equals collapse. Data toggle equals collapse added to the button, and then data hyphen target equals, and now I'm going to add an ID, okay? And the ID that I'm going to place on this one is called, let's see, what did I call it? Hashtag navbar menu. Navbar menu. Now, really, you can name this ID whatever you want, but since it's the menu, when I click that drop-down menu, I'm going to call it navbar menu. Okay. Finally, add the ID navbar menu to the div that contains the UL. So my div that contains my unordered list is going to get the ID of Navbar menu. And you have to make sure that those two names match. The data target has a hashtag, the ID does not. Okay, and now if I run it one last time, I should be able to go to the nav. It has my links spread out. If I make it small, my then drop-down menu will hit those 3 links, which can link back to page 3. Mine doesn't have any content right now. I can click to nav. They go to bears.html. I should go back to that one, etc. All right. I hope this helps. If it doesn't, go back and try to pause at those different spots. If your button still does not work, double check that you included the optional JavaScript tags found on the Bootstrap documentation getting started page. Those JavaScript tags are these guys right here that we copy and pasted from index.html. Okay? I hope that helps you add a navigation bar to your page. The great thing is, now that we have it here on mynavbar.html, I should be able to just grab everything within this navbar, okay? Everything from the opening nav to the closing nav. I should be able to copy and paste that and put it on every single page right after the container or right before the container. Let's do it after the container. In page 3.html. And run that again. And your web page will then have a navbar. And if you shrink the screen down, your navbar will work on all of those pages. Okay? And it automatically changes to the other style on a larger page. Okay?